Hello friends and neighbors. Well, it may be 2 weeks into 2012, but I still haven't finished reviewing the books that I read in 2011 yet. And I read some pretty good books in 2011, like Nation by Terry Pratchett, The Name of the Star by Maureen Johnson, Watchmen by Alan Moore, and this one, the last book that I read in 2011 called 5 Flavors of Dumb by Antony John. I don't actually have a copy of the book with me, so I'm just going to use this one that was just kind of sitting around the house. You know. 5 Flavors of Dumb is one of those books that I saw at the bookstore and thought it had an intriguing title, and since I was doing my Christmas shopping at the time, I thought I'd buy it for the family and see what everybody thought. But what intrigued me more than the title was the back blurb. It started by giving a basic outline of the premise of the story. This girl, named Piper, inadvertently becomes the manager of a band at her high school called Dumb. Because her parents have raided her college fund, she now needs some money to go to the college that she wants to go to, and so she becomes manager in the hope of getting them a paying gig, getting some share of their profits, and getting enough money to go to the college she wants to. The problem is the band is, well, not very good. And so reading the back of the book, it seems like kind of a fun, lighthearted, hijinks type of novel, but then you get to the last 5 words of the blurb. Oh yeah. And she's deaf. So suddenly, with that one little twist in the main character, this becomes a completely different story. There is a lot of stuff in this novel. Obviously, it has a lot to say about the deaf and the deaf culture and what it's like to be a person with impaired hearing living in a very hearing-oriented world. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff about expectations and what people assume about her because she's deaf, and moreover what they assume about her being the deaf manager of a band. And there's also a lot of stuff about the golden age of rock and understanding the lives that these people led. But what really drives the story are the relationships that form between Piper and the other band members. Just like a lot of assumptions are made about Piper with her being the deaf manager of a rock band, Piper makes a lot of assumptions about other people as well. And almost invariably, these assumptions are completely and totally wrong. And one of the things I really like about this novel is that while there is a central romance and while there are other romantic things going on among the characters, most of the focus is on the friendships that forms and the familial relationships that form. Piper becomes really good friends with 2 girls that at the beginning of the novel she could not have possibly imagined being friends with. And similarly, at the beginning of the novel we meet her parents, and her parents just seem like the world's most awful parents ever at times, to the point where you kind of want to chuck the book at the wall. But I really enjoy the family dynamic that develops, the relationship that develops between Piper and her parents and her little brother. As another thing, there's a sibling relationship in this book. I love good sibling relationships in stories, and this one has a really, really strong one. And I think ultimately that's what made this story work for me, the relationships between the characters, the relationships that form between Piper and her brother and her parents and the other members of the band. All of that just worked really, really well. So if you haven't heard of this novel or you haven't read of this novel, I would definitely recommend that you find it. 5 Flavors of Dumb by Antony John. On the worth meter, I would give this a worth owning new. And that does it for this book review. Now, if you'll excuse me,